morning. Today we're going to make some homemade hot tamales. And so what I've done, I went to the Dollar Tree and I got 2 packs. Went to the Dollar Tree, I got 2 packs of the Reynolds wrappers, the pre-cut foil sheets. And what I've done is I've taken them all apart, stacked them, and I cut them in half. So when you get 2 of these, one of them is 50, so you cut them in half. The other one is 100. And then for the rest of them, I'm going to use some, I got some coffee filters left from the last time I fixed them. Okay. Now, you can buy hot tamales that somebody has already made. You can buy them out of the store, but this is a good recipe. I've made them before with a coworker, and then I made them on my own. But the ones I made on my own, I used the coffee wrappers, and I ended up using yellow cornmeal to roll them in. Don't use the yellow cornmeal. Don't substitute that white cornmeal. Use your white cornmeal. And the other recipe, we use just salt in the cornmeal. This one, you call for red pepper. Well, I'll just show you. But anyway, so that's what we're doing right now. We're preparing. We're prepping. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to separate these and cut them in half. Okay, so here they are. There was 25 of them and I cut them in half. So now I have my 100 sheets. The recipe I have is supposed to make 120, so that's going to be 20 over what I have here. Well, you know what? It may be about 24 because some of the ones I had, they were all balled up. Like this. This is how they were in the pack. But this pack was fine. So I'll have enough coffee filters to do the rest. And also they said you can use parchment paper. But I've learned from with the coffee filters, the liquid wasn't able to actually go through into the hot tamales. So I'm gonna, when I made some with my coworker, we did use the foil, and the foil, it had a lot of the seasoning in there, and they were good. So, okay, I'll come back. I just wanted to show you that, save you some time, and like I said, these were $2. Now you can go and purchase those tamale wrappers, the paper. They're expensive. You get maybe 1,000, but they're like $30-something. So this is a $2 good substitute. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so here we are making the steam mixture to go over the tamales after we have made them. So what we have is a half a cup of tomato sauce, 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of chili powder, 2 tablespoons of Gebhart's Chili Quick, which is discontinued, so I found a recipe I'm going to try to mimic, and a half a can of Rotel tomatoes. So I have everything except for the Chili Quick. That's something I'm going to have to work on. Okay? So the next step is the cornmeal mixture. Okay, for the cornmeal mixture, we're going to use 3 cups of white cornmeal. Don't use yellow. I did that before and it altered the taste. So we're going to do 3 cups of cornmeal, white cornmeal, and I bought the little 2-pound bags because I don't use cornmeal very often. It was over $1. That's 1. 2. I only needed 1 of these. 3. I'm going to put a little bit more, a little over the top. That's our cornmeal. Again, we're going to put a tablespoon of salt. If you don't like salt, you can eliminate it, but it won't have a taste. This salt, it really helps this. 1 tablespoon of red pepper. And I'm using crushed red pepper. Flakes. And also this called for 2 tablespoons of the Gebhart's Chili Quick. So for the steam mixture, the cornmeal mixture, and for the meat mixture calls for the Gebhart's Chili Quick. So I guess I'll do a little quick recipe on that as well. Okay, so this is all we're going to add at this point, and we're going to mix it. I know when I buy hot tamales, and sometimes the cornmeal is tinted slightly red, but the recipe I made with a coworker, it wasn't red because we didn't use any at all. We just used salt. So I think this is going to amp it up a little bit. So I'll come back. This is all we're going to do to the cornmeal mixture until I make the chili quick, and I'll come back and show you when I do that. Okay, so now we're going to make the chili quick. I do have a little small pack of masa, and where I got this from, the chili kit that I use to make my chili, it has a pack of masa in it. I never use it. And I know that's not a fourth of a cup like the recipe calls for, but I'm just going to use what I have. So use a fourth of a cup of masa. That's not a fourth, but that's what I'm going to use. 3 tablespoons of chili powder. 1, 2, 3. This is very cumbersome, this recipe, so you have to be ready if you want to make this. So now we're going to use a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1/2 teaspoon of onion and garlic powder. This is the onion powder. It's a half. Now it calls for 2 tablespoons in each thing, and so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the 2 tablespoons first in the meat mixture, and I'll just divide what's left in the other 2 because it's very important that your meat mixture is well seasoned, and the rest of them could just, you know, feed off of that, I guess you could say. So we're going to mix this up real good, and we're going to distribute this amongst the 3 mixtures that we're using it in. Okay, so now we're working on the meat mixture. So what I have here, the recipe calls for 6 pounds of ground meat. I only have 5, so we're going to stick with what I have. We're going to use, I've already put the 1.5 cups of red bell pepper. I'm sorry, red pepper. I use crushed red pepper. I've already done the 2 medium onions. I've chopped and grated them. I actually had it more than I felt was enough, but I may go ahead and add it because it may do something with the taste. So I'm going to go ahead and I chopped it up. I don't have a food processor, but I think I did pretty good with the knife. So I got that. I also put a little bell pepper in mine just because I like bell pepper. And I put the tablespoon of salt along with the 1 teaspoon. So now we need, oh guys, the Gebhart's Chili Quick. I had enough left to put 2 tablespoons in each one of the mixtures. So now I'm going to add the 6 tablespoons of chili powder. And what you want to do, you don't want to mix your dry and your wet together because it's going to clump up and your season's not going to, you know, be all through your food. So that's 3. Let me stop right now and mix this up before I add any more. We don't want it to clump up, okay? Hold on. Okay, so I put the 3, I mix it up, so we're going to put the other 3. So that's 1. Remember, don't do your wet and dry, it's going to clump up. This is not a recipe that you want to do in an hour because it takes a while to mix all these because you have so many different steps. Okay, so that is the 6 tablespoons of chili powder. And I found the Gebhart's chili powder. That's what I've been using. Okay, so now I need to add my garlic, but let me go ahead and mix this up before I add the garlic because that's going to be the dry and the wet. It's going to clump up. Okay, the garlic I have is that chopped garlic, and I don't know if you can see it. It says, but 1/2 teaspoon is equal to 1 clove. So if I'm doing 4, so this is a teaspoon, that equals 1, right? I'm sorry. If 1/2 teaspoon is 1 clove, then a whole teaspoon is 2. So let's do another one. And this is the one that, let's put a little of juice in there. This is a lot of work to do for something that won't have flavor. So with the exception of salt, if I use a little too much, I'm not gonna have a problem with it. So also with this, you're going to add a 1/2 cup of water. I think that keeps the meat from being too packed, because like I told you, I've done this before. You're going to use a whole can of rotel tomatoes, and you're also going to use 3/4 of a cup of cornmeal and 1.5 cup of tomato sauce. Now I washed my hands. I want you all to see this because we are making hot tamales. Some will use gloves, and if I would be cooking it for the public, I would, but these are some I'm going to make and place in the freezer or give to family, so I can use my hands. But I wouldn't send them to anybody, or I wouldn't sell them to anybody if I didn't use gloves, okay? Anyway, so this is what it looks like. And the only thing I haven't added now is the 3/4 of a cup of cornmeal. And what that does, from experience, what I've learned is that kind of sets the ground beef. You know how if you'll be making meatloaf or meatballs or something, you use some kind of binder? Well, I think the cornmeal for this is actually a binder. So this is what it looks like, and it's all done, minus the cornmeal. Now once I put the cornmeal in there, I'm going to put that cornmeal mixture on something, and we're going to start rolling. Okay? Alright, I'm deviating from this recipe, which I'm going to share with you. It's on cooks.com, but I'm deviating, and the reason is when I first made the hot tamales from scratch, I used their recipe called for a McCormick chili seasoning. So I found one this morning, the original pack. I'm going to also add that, just for a little extra kick of flavor. I hope I'm not messing it up, but we're going to try. So this is a dry mixture after the wet, so now I'll go ahead and add the cornmeal as well. And I think I'm not going to add it all because I don't want it to clump up. So I'm going to add 1/2 of that and come back and do the other 1/2.